Hi, I'm Joe,
And I'm Ricky.
and this is the third episode of season 3 of the Beer and Broadband podcast. It's slated to come out on 4/20/2020, so that's a lot of 20s there, but
It is. It's
it's
time to change the topic so they realize what day it comes out on.
yeah, exactly. It's not it's yeah, wait, 4/20/2020. Yeah, that's true. It's 4/20 in that the stoner
Yep, that's
term.
yeah.
Yeah.
I know there was something about this
Yeah.
year. I guess it was supposed to. You're supposed to celebrate it all month, which we're already in
Yeah.
for. So I guess we're not doing that. Quarantine locked us out. It's all a government conspiracy to keep us down.
Yeah. I'm not yeah, it is 4/20 is a cannabis thing. Yeah, that's right. Okay. I'm not really into that. I didn't
Yeah.
even think about that until you said something. But we're into beer. And so we're going to talk about a beer. We're going to talk about Innis and Guns, barrel aged Irish whiskey cask, barrel stout. It's 11.2, or it's not, it's 6.1 ABV. I said it was 11.2. It's 11.2 uh, ounces. So it says Irish Smooth Scottish Stout meets carefully selected Irish whiskey barrels, creating a flavor packed beer with notes of dark chocolate and coffee alongside hits of vanilla and oak. We've spent more than a decade perfecting our craft and out at innisandgun.com. So I know you don't love Innis and Gun and stouts as much as I do. Stouts are like my thing. So since I'm the person that picks up the beers mostly, I'll throw in like some bones for you every now and then. I'll get like a lighter beer, but I have a hard time finding lighter beers that have
Yeah.
like a
No, it's
variety of
no worries.
flavors.
I have to call you out. You got to go watch our old episodes. I think you got me last season to admit that now stouts are my preferred beer. Now that I've had
I
enough of
did.
them, I've really got a flavor for them.
I did because you said that you keep Dragon's Milk around. You just really
Mm.
like that beer. For some reason, I'm hoping to convert you over to by making a stout myself. Convert you over to the stout family.
Oh yeah, no,
Um,
I don't keep too much beer in the house, but I've got 3 stouts in the fridge.
that's
Like
that's
that's kind of what I drink now. I'll occasionally go and get like a week, but most of the time, if I'm grabbing a beer somewhere, it's a stout nowadays.
that's great. So you've had a sip of this. What do you think of it?
I have. So not my favorite stout. It is very good. I know we had talked about the podcast. I was like, I don't know if it's too good, I might drink all of it. I don't think I'm gonna go that far. It does have very good notes. You can really get that coffee and that dark chocolate. It's a little bit sweet for me. It's a little malty. It's definitely one of those in complete contrast to our last one. This is one of those things I would slowly slip for like 2 hours. This isn't something I can drink a lot of at once.
Yeah, I agree with that. This is something that I'd have with a steak, sitting over dinner, talking to some friends, something like that. It's a great beer. If you love stouts, it's a worthy one to have. It has all the wonderful whiskey notes, that butteriness and everything. If you just kind of
Hmm.
let it set on your tongue, especially like if you kind of like treat your glass as like a snifter, and like you when you drink in, like you breathe in some of the stuff, you get some of the whiskey notes that
Hmm.
it has in there. It's got all this like great stuff about it, but it's not perfect. And there we've got another Inus and Gun drink this season, and we'll be able to kind of like talk about them. I planned on doing them back to back, but I mixed up my order of beers, and so I'm not going to go back and change that now. um, but I think season 3 episode 6 we're going to talk about Inus and Gun Blood Red Sky, and like we may kind of harken back to what we think about this, but if you let it set on your tongue and just kind of sit there for a moment, it has, especially if you clean your palate of everything
Hmm.
else, it has like a kind of flavor like vanilla Coke on the after flavor.
Yeah, it kind of does. It's definitely got that sweetness, like that really dark, like malty, almost caramel type sweetness. I think Coke actually has caramel like flavoring in it.
Yeah, it does.
But yeah, there is that little. It's definitely got a smooth vanilla taste. Like it's a really good beer. It's just even the. I don't know if I'd have it over a steak. I might have that as like my after dinner drink because I feel like I would be sipping on this until dinner, and it's like 2 o'clock right now. I'd sip on this for 3 hours. I bet it'd be
Yeah.
really good to cook with though. We started making a Irish stew that you're supposed to put a stout into, and it suggests like Guinness. So if you Guinness a couple times,
Hmm.
but I might grab one of these because I think a little bit of that extra like barrel flavor would be really good in like a nice like beef stew.
I don't know. I'd have to try, but I think you could definitely braise a steak in it, and it would be good
Mm,
with it. I've had it with dinner, with like a couple of different things that we made, and we've been eating mostly vegetarian. It's not, not completely no meat or anything like that. But I had it with some Indian that we made when I first got the thing. I had one on with it, and it was really good. Like the it works really good on like spicy foods, having it kind of
yeah,
just the
I can see
sweetness and
that.
everything. So it's a good beer. It's not my favorite. I don't want to. It's not the Abyss. It's not like Deschutes or anything like that. And it's not like one of the other beers that I love to talk about. So much. So one of those stouts that I'm just like, oh, these are great. It's not even as good as a Dragon Milk, but it's a good beer. It's I if I had it and I was gonna grab it out of a thing, and I had like 10 beers to choose from, and it was this, a Fat Tire, a Red Oak, maybe a hoppy IPA, and a couple other things like that that people really love. This would be the one that I'd choose, out of that. But if
Yeah,
there was something that was a better beer, I'd choose that beer. So it's not the best beer. That didn't make any sense, but you know what I was getting at.
yeah, I do.
Okay, cool. So I know we've been talking a little bit about brewing over the last couple of episodes, and especially on the first episode, we talked about what we did to brew. But I've adopted a really like rigorous brew schedule. Um, you haven't so much. Do you feel like brew schedules are like important, or like?
I don't know. I think it really depends on what you're trying to get out of brewing. When I first started, I had a super strict schedule. I always had 2 or 3 things going. I think in my first year I started brewing, I probably did more than half of my total like lifetime brews. I was all over it. I had a bunch of 1 and 2 gallons. I just ran through stuff. Did like a lot of experiments. Like I'd take a whole bunch of different yeasts and try the same thing in it. Or I mean, I did like some apple meads before where I was like, it was all the same ingredients, but all in like different ratios. Like my first run at it of making a cider that I put a little honey in, only like 4 or 5%. It was 2 gallon, but we drank it all in like 2 days. We loved it. So it really like that creation energy gets you moving at the start. So like if you're in that area, absolutely. Like make yourself a schedule, brew as often as you feel like. Once you're really comfortable doing it, I kind of switched over to like, oh, I brew when I want something to drink. Like when I'm running out of alcohol, I'll start brewing again. Like we're about to hit the 1 gallon mark on what we've got left over from other brew. So I'll probably start up a new batch soon. But at some level, when you start, you're making so much you almost have to give it away because you can't drink it all yourself. Um, but I kind of just hit that stride where it's like, if I'm not gonna drink it, I'll give some of it away. But if I'm not hurting for some alcohol, I generally wait until I get to that point before I make something.
I think I do it kind of differently. I think what I do is I'm more in that spot where I'm looking at. I want to know how to brew, and I want to know how to do it really well. I want to know how to everything but distilled spirits. Eventually, I
Mm,
probably even want to know how to do that. But right now, I just want to know how to do all of the things that you can kind of do at home,
yeah,
and figure that out, and then kind of go from there. Like, do I end up making this more than a hobby, or is it just a hobby? Like what ends up happening with it? Um, but my first, initial thought, because we've brewed together like many times, is if I don't have a schedule, I won't Like I need to have it's like working out, right? If I don't have a
Hmm.
schedule for working out, I'm just not consistent enough with it. I start to lose some of those things that I need to have, right? So I on Monday I need to do chest. On Tuesday I need to do back. On Wednesday, I need to do my legs. On Thursday, I need to do my arms. On Friday, I run. Saturday, I run. On Sunday, I run. Like that sort of thing. I
Hmm.
kind of treat beer the same way, and then take like a couple of weeks off in between, like a certain amount of batches, because like um, I took like 2 weeks off between the two batches that I made this winter, and so I think brewing is kind of like a discipline that you need to pay attention to in order to really stay kind of good at it.
Mm. Yeah, I'm not sure so much about that last statement. Just because like at one level, brewing is very scientific. That's kind of the part that I immerse myself in the most of like learning how these processes work. And once you document that, there's really not a lot else to go wrong. Like at some level, I get what you're saying. That like if you were like trying to take it to professional, there's a ton of brewing you have to do of just refining recipes. But I've taken extreme amounts of time off. I mean, if we think about like that strawberry one, I hadn't brewed anything myself solo, like a recipe I came up with and I did the work on for like a year and a half before I made that strawberry wine. And it came out great. Like you save a lot of those principles over because they're very repeatable steps. Like, it's not like painting or singing or like playing an instrument where over time you can kind of lose some of it because a lot of it is like muscle memory, a lot of it is perspective and like very fine-tuned skills. Brewing really comes down to very repeatable simple processes where a lot of the change in your stuff comes in it's from recipe, you
So
know.
I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I think that what I'm talking about is not losing your ability to do it, but losing your rhythm. There's a
Yeah,
rhythm that
okay.
goes
Yeah,
into
yeah. I
having
there
thing.
definitely is. There is if you want to constantly have batches running, there is some planning in there that has to happen because you need to not only produce it at a certain rate, you got to drink it at a certain rate or find somebody to drink it at a certain rate. There is definitely some planning if you want to consistently brew that has to go into it. That is there.
Yeah.
You can't just on the fly take 2 weeks off if you're in the middle of doing some brew cycle because you might need to swap stuff over. Things might need to be going in the secondary. You probably, if you're like aging something with spices, probably shouldn't leave it alone for 2 weeks without like trying it. There is that like once you start, you gotta be like on track. Like
Yeah.
even for like my strawberry wine, I checked it every 2 days, not necessarily tasting it, but looking to make sure that, it's either still bubbling or the pressure isn't building up or going negative. Because sometimes you can see if like, because we were still in winter, if my heat ever wasn't operating right, you can, instead of like, you push on the top and bubbles come out, you can push on the top and nothing comes out, which means that like the pressure has kind of gone inward because it got too cold. Yeah, there is a lot of like, once you've got it in your hand, you do have to be pretty disciplined in it. Otherwise, I won't say it's easy because it's alcohol. It's fairly resistant as long as you clean everything, but it's not hard to mess up a brew if you don't pay attention to it.
Yeah. So, um, I think just on this topic, I don't want it to be the whole show. It depending on what your if you're just doing it to like, oh, I'm just gonna make I'm gonna make like a summer wine every summer. You've got one recipe and you're always doing, you know what it is, you just do it every year, that's fine. But if you're like, I want to learn how this works, you have to have a discipline to it, I think, in order to really get that information in. And you can relax a little bit later, but you should, if you want to consistently do stuff over and over and over again, I think I think that's like really important that you spend time like saying, okay, well, maybe you're not going to make like a 5 gallon batch, but you're going to make like a gallon batch, you
Yeah.
know, stuff like that.
So
So
let me propose this question to you. I know this is probably a little
mhm.
bit off. How do you like brewing 2 gallons as opposed to brewing 5 gallons?
I actually like it more because I can do more things that are different. And I don't, if I mess it up, I don't waste as much. I don't waste as much yeast. I don't. It's not really expensive, but like with mead, um, I might spend $30 on the ingredients that go into it
Hmm.
because um, like honey's like $4 a pound or something like that, $3 a pound, something like that. So I might spend 12, $13 on honey um for a 2 gallon, where like with a 5 gallon I'd spend like closer to 30 or $40.
Yeah.
And so I like it better making 2 gallon batches for things like that than I do 5 gallon batches. But I think when it comes to like beer and cider, I prefer to make 5 gallon batches.
Yeah, I can see that. I really prefer to make the larger batches for cider and wine. Mead, I do still like doing the larger batches, but I have had it bite me because mead's a little bit harder. There's more things that can go wrong in that, in the sense that if you mistakes take longer to fix. Like with mead, because it already comes out kind of so rough. If you've messed something up, like either just bad recipe or bad technique, and it makes that even rougher. It just takes so long to age out. I definitely had some like 5 gallon meat batches that like took quite a while to get to the place that I could like drink them well. So I can see that mentality.
Yeah.
Now on that note though, I was at Costco and found that they sell bulk honey.
Oh.
And you've already heard me rant, I think on the show and just in real life, that I don't like clover honey because clover honey is less regulated. There's like, because when you buy a honey that says it's like a particular type, you have to be able to certify that it's like that percentage of it. So if you buy like an orange blossom honey, I think it's like 70 or 80% has to be orange blossom. Then the rest can be whatever. Whereas with clover, it only has to be like 20 or 30% clover. So clover gets like all mixed up. You can't replicate it as much. But I found some fairly large containers of wildflower honey for
Oh.
not a terrible price. I wish I had marked the price down because I bought it to have honey for like sweetening tea or for like my kid to sometimes we'll put like a little bit of honey on her chicken or something like that. I'll pay attention to the price next time. I might do like a Kirkland. I don't know what I'll call it, like a Kirkland mead since that's their like name brand. Because I really liked the apples that they had. Like the apples I bought and just the apple juice were both really good. So if that
Huh.
honey turns out to be good quality for brewing, that might be where I get it. Because I kind of prefer most of the time wildflower. If I'm making a like a flavored something, sometime I'll switch to like a complementary flavor. But my standard like go-to honey has always been wildflower.
That's pretty legit. Um, about how many pounds do you put um per gallon, basically?
That's a good question. I have to do the math in my head real quick. Most of the time when I buy bulk honey, I actually buy it by volume, not by weight. But I'm fairly certain 12 pounds of honey is 1 gallon. So I would say I'm generally putting in 3 pounds of honey per gallon of whatever else I'm putting in.
Okay. That seems about right. I normally put in so the last mead that I made, they ended up causing me to have some problems. I put in 4 per gallon. Um,
Okay.
yeah. So I'm thinking about making a sizer, and I was thinking about doing 2 pounds per gallon.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I can absolutely see that.
see how that
I have
plays out.
found that like sizers and other like fruit meat combos have worked out better for me than plain meat.
Mm.
Something about just that kind of like roughness of honey doesn't have a lot of nutrients in it other than just the sugar. Um, that has made some brewing like take a while. Like I've had you know sizers. I also I think we've made some cherry mead that didn't take nearly as long to age to get to a good flavor as some of my straight meats have. So I definitely recommend it. I mean, it's harder to classify and like sell commercially for the people that are thinking about taking it more serious than a hobby. But for just like hobby stuff, I almost think you can't go wrong because most of the time, like you want to flavor your meat anyway. Like I've drank some straight meats, ones I've made, and then just like commercially sold ones. I got some nice like Poland meat that was just straight meat. It's okay, but it's nothing to write home about because it really is just kind of like sweet alcohol. It's got some honey flavor, but not much else. Maybe some stuff it picks up from the barrel. But you get a little bit of cherry or apple or just really any other little fruit flavor in there to complement that sweetness, so it's not just honey, and you get some really good combos in it.
Yeah, the cherry mead that we made, I felt like was really good. I want to go. I want to make another batch of that, but I think I want to make a 2 gallon batch
Hmm.
or a 1 gallon batch instead of a 5 gallon batch like we did last time. See how it ends up, and then try it with a larger batch after that, because I feel like we need to, or I want to really try that again, because
Yeah,
that was good, but it wasn't perfect.
it wasn't. One of the things we should look out for on that, we've made that cherry meat a couple times, and sometimes it worked out really well, and sometimes it didn't. And we never threw any out, but there were certainly some batches that were better than others.
Mhm.
That we really focused on this, like, how are we getting the cherry flavor in there? Sometimes we did just puree, sometimes we did juice and puree. I think one batch we did juice and then just like slightly mashed frozen cherries.
Mhm.
All these different ways to try it. Um, I'm considering. 'Cause I don't know if I'll make strawberry again because we just got done drinking like 6 ounce strawberry. I think the same brand that did the strawberry wine base might have a cherry wine base.
They do.
Might yeah,
I looked it up. They do. I've considered getting that. That might be a good thing for us to try.
yeah. It definitely could be because I mean that on one level, some people say, well, that's not as homemade, but on the other hand, like a company that sells wine bases and has really good reviews has spent a lot of time and effort to find a really good cherry flavor.
I think it depends on the ingredients and what we end up turning out with it, but we should talk about that.
Yeah.
That might be the right thing to do. So speaking of recipes, let's talk about Good Eats. Do you watch that show?
Yeah.
Have you ever
Okay,
watched it?
so here's the thing. I didn't watch that show, but then
Oh.
here on the podcast you talked about it. And I went and I watched like a couple episodes and it was okay. Like I watched like the beef jerky one and that popcorn one you recommended and a few others and it was okay. I wasn't super into it. But there's like newer ones out.
Yep.
And now he's like older and a little more rustic. I haven't watched all of it. I watched a few and those were good. He's also got the thing he's doing right now for Corona. I
Yep.
forget the series. It's like
It's
pantry
just
something.
so it's Pantry Raid was a
Yeah.
Good Eats. It's a Good Eats thing, but since they can't film anymore right now, they would be working on their third season of the new Good Eats thing, and they did
Hmm.
Good Eats Reloaded. Um, he's just kind of like, well, I'm here at the kitchen. Let me stream some stuff. So he's been, you know, like going through and like, let's talk about rice. Let's talk
Hmm.
about popcorn. You know, so on and so forth. It's I felt like it was really awesome, and I'm super excited about it. So this is one of my favorite things that happened. It's like when your favorite band gets back together and they actually release a good album and it's good, and you're like, oh, oh, I've been missing this so much. This is
Yeah.
kind of like what it
Yeah.
is. So if you haven't watched Good Eats Reloaded or Good Eats, because there's two shows that he's putting out, Good Eats, so he just did a new season of Good Eats with Food Network, and Good Eats Reloaded, which is like he's going back and where he made mistakes when he was talking about stuff, he is correcting those mistakes. He does that in Good Eats too, so it's just kind of like a show based off that. You should watch both of them; they're really good. And I challenge you, Ricky, to watch through the. He did last year, and in Good Eats, he did a whole episode about what to do if you're stuck inside and the apocalypse has happened before any of this stuff was going on.
Hmm.
So you should watch that. It's pretty good. It's funny.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll have to check that out. I'll admit, as far as food is concerned, I feel pretty prepared there. I've always been, at least as long as I've like been in my own place, been a bulk buyer in terms of like I really hate buying like 1 pound of rice, so I buy like 30 pounds of rice, and I've got tons of bulk pasta. It was kinda nice. But all the whole like everything's out of stock, it didn't really affect us because we had a bajillion everything. So my wife gave me a pat on the back for that one. She was concerned because she was like, "Where? What are we gonna eat? What if we can't find X, Y, and Z?" And I was like, "But you never go in this pantry corner. But look at this." Like
We
what
got
she
food.
thought was like empty containers, like, because it's hard because I don't like storing it in a bag because like I once had like little mites and stuff get into it. So all of my bulk stuff are stored in these like giant bins that are
Yep.
generally used for like dog food.
Mm,
And she thought we just had like extra dog food containers. Like, no, this is rice and this is beans and this is boxes of bulk pasta.
nice. I do buy more like in bulk, and I do the same thing that you do. I keep things in container, but it's like just it's not like 5 pounds. It's like 3 pounds because three
Yeah,
pounds lasts me like 5 months, or whatever.
yeah.
I generally buy, I mean, I, I buy certain things I buy more of and certain things I don't. So like I get orders of toilet paper for like 2 months at a time. And I've been doing this forever. I get like 2 months worth of toilet paper, 2 months worth of paper towel rolls, 2 months worth of cat food, 2 months worth of things like that. And even though I'm allergic to cats, still have to make sure we take care of the cat. 2 months of dog food,
Yeah.
that sort of stuff. And I keep those things in bulk. But then there's other things like, um, I don't keep that much of. So it just kind of depends. But yeah, I agree with you. That's a good strategy to have up. I'm going to start keeping more rice. I think because we've been going through it a lot more since we've been eating more vegetarian.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah. And it's the
yeah,
easiest thing to get in bulk. Like just run to any like Asian grocery store and buy like the 25-pound bags.
yeah,
And we do that just because it's such an easy side. And my kid will eat rice. So like we buy big things of rice, and then if you can find it, they'll sell these like they're like cylinders, but it's got to be like 3 or 4 pounds worth of what they call like various animal powder. So like chicken powder or beef powder or pork powder. That's essentially just like broth mix. And it's in such a huge powdered container, it lasts forever. We bought one when we still lived in Durham, and like not before we started thinking about like shortly after Delilah was, we bought a big canister of it, and we are not out yet, but are thinking we need to go buy some more soon. It lasts forever. Get like a half a tablespoon of that into a couple cups of rice, throw it in your rice cooker, done in like 20-30 minutes, and it tastes great.
awesome. So I'm going to switch topics here for a moment. I was going to talk about like the next gen consoles, but I don't
Mm,
really. I mean, whatever. I'm not really. My PlayStation
yeah.
4 is fine enough, but I do want to talk about something that I did recently. I did like a little home project one day. I had a spare SSD. It was a 4 terabyte SSD. I know you're like, who the heck keeps a 4 terabyte SSD just spare around? I I took a hard drive out of another thing and then I replaced it with an SSD, and then I just ended up with a 4 terabyte SSD that I wasn't using. And I
Hmm.
read somewhere that you could put one an SSD of any size in a PlayStation 4 because it's got a spinning hard drive, right? And I have a PS4 Pro.
Oh, yes. Okay. I'm sorry. When I read this topic, when I read PS Pro, I thought in my head like their mobile thing, forgetting that was a Vita. And I was trying to connect in my head how you would manage to take a 4 terabyte computer SSD and put it in this handheld.
Yeah,
But okay, like in the console itself, they let you switch. Oh, that's cool.
yeah.
I
So
mean, I'm surprised they let you do that. You'd think they'd like solder it on or anything with the way tech companies are nowadays.
no, they don't. And well, so PlayStation's always PS3 and other things like that, they've always let you kind of take stuff out
Hmm.
and swap them out. But generally, it had to be like a very particular hard drive that was at a certain max capacity and stuff like
Hmm.
that. And so my PlayStation, I mean, it's great, but it's always like a little bit slow when, like I'm doing stuff. So I was thinking, you know what? I just want to swap stuff out. It was super easy. I mean, like took me like an hour, signed back in, did all the stuff, and then downloaded a few games. It took me like 2 days to download all the games that I had and everything like that and get everything set back up. But once I was done, and I still haven't like put I have like some of my games that I haven't played in a while
Mhm.
on it. But I've only taken up like zero point 0.9 uh, terabytes so far. Um, so I'm not even quite at 2 terabytes, or I'm not even at 1 terabyte quite yet. And I'll probably end up having like 2, maybe 3 terabytes worth of space that I use on it, and I'll have some extra space left over for future consumption. But I was super excited because I was like, oh man, I can actually like you know keep almost all of my game library on this thing. And when eventually the apocalypse happens, I'll have something to keep me like from being bored.
Yeah, you have just unknowingly made my wife's life so much better because I
Yeah,
didn't know you could swap them. She talked to me before about like it would be nice to get a bigger hard drive for my PlayStation, and I was like, oh yeah, maybe when we have a little bit of money or when it's a good spending time. But now that I know I can swap it out for already existing hard drives, I've got plenty of spare hard drives I could just toss in there.
yeah, so it has to be a 2.5 inch hard drive or SSD.
Hmm.
I suggest if you're going to do it, get an SSD.
Yeah.
Like
Oh
two.
yeah. I've got a couple spare SSDs sitting around from past projects. They're not the fastest. This is back when I was an independent contractor. But I think I've got a 2 terabyte SSD laying around.
If you've got a 2 terabyte SSD, throw it in there, dude. It like the regular PS4 is 500 gigabytes. I think that's the one you have, right? You don't have the Pro, do you?
No.
Okay, yeah. So that one's like 500 gigabytes. I think the Pro went up to a terabyte. But if you can throw like a 2 terabyte SSD, it's a little bit harder to do the regular PlayStation because like it's a little bit more inside. The Pro, they made it so you can just like slide a module out and slide it back
Hmm.
in. It's almost like a real computer. Imagine that
Yeah,
a
yeah.
console being like a real computer. But yeah, dude, it's totally worth it. Like anybody that's out there that's wanting to do this project, totally worth it. It's super simple. You just back up. You have to download a thing onto a flash drive, like a USB storage.
Hmm.
So you download like some files onto it, and when you plug the new hard drive in, you put that in, you turn the PlayStation on, it'll just consume those as long as they're in a certain folder. It'll just take them and boot up and restore the operating system and everything. You just sign back in, download your stuff. Maybe an hour to do that part. It's not hard.
Okay. Yeah,
Totally
I'm
worth
looking
it.
at instructions online. Oh my gosh, even on the regular one, it's really not that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a few more steps on the
Yeah,
regular one,
you just got to get the chassis off in a particular way, and it's just exposed. Oh my gosh.
and it's super fast. It's like it makes your download speeds faster. It makes everything fast because you can write to the hard drive faster. So boot up times faster. It's great. I was gonna like my plan was to like have you come over and like turn it on and say, "Have you noticed how fast my PlayStation boots up? Isn't that great? Isn't that awesome?" And then be like, "I put a 4 terabyte SSD in there. Look at how awesome I am." But you couldn't come over and look at it, so that sucks. But um, yeah. So uh, so you have anything else you want to say about that?
No, I think that's it.
All right. Well, let's end this episode, and thanks everybody for listening. Thanks everybody that's out there that's making our lives where we can work. All the necessary people that are keeping our grocery stores and everything going. We really appreciate your time. I do want to call out Folding from Home. They are one of our best chances at finding a way of combating Corona other than social isolation. So if you are not doing folding from home, please do folding from home. It would be great. There's all sorts of different places: PC Master Race, Linus Tech Tips. They all have their like groups. I joined the Linus Tech Tips group. So like if you're considering doing that, please put yourself out there to do folding from home. Otherwise, this has been the third episode of Beer and Broadband for season 3, and we'll catch you next time. Thank you so much.